Welcome once again, my friends, and thank you for stopping by to listen to an old storyteller. Today we have an Oriental tale, and the title of this story is Gunga and Cunga. Many, many years ago, there lived in a land called Gujasman a Chan, that is, a great ruler, whose name was Gunis Chang. In time, Gunis Chang died, and his son Chamuk Satis Chi was chosen to rule in his place. In the country of Gujasman, there lived two men with similar names. One of them, Gunga, was a painter, and the other, Cunga, was a woodcarver. These two men disliked one another very much. But Cunga was a just man, and in spite of his dislike for Gunga, he planned no evil against him. "He has done me no harm," he said, "and therefore, although I dislike the man from the very bottom of my soul, I will not do him any injury." So Cunga did his best to keep out of the way of his enemy, lest he should be tempted in an evil moment to do him some harm. Not so Gunga. He was a man of a cunning and wicked heart, and spent much time trying to devise some way by which he could get rid of Cunga without danger to himself. And after a good deal of thought, he hit upon a plan upon which he immediately acted. He requested an interview with the Chan, saying that he had news of great importance to depart to him. So the Chan commanded that the painter should be brought into his presence, and bade him unfold what he had to tell. "Thy honored father, O Chan," said Gunga, "was born after death into the kingdom of Tang Ari, that is to say, the world of the spirits. And last night I received a message from him asking that I would go thither. And thither I went without delay. And when I came thither, I found him living there in great magnificence and splendor. And he spoke with me a long time, and told me his wishes. And he also gave me this letter, which he asked me to deliver into your hands without delay." Thereupon Gunga produced a letter which he had written himself with great care and cunning, imitating the writing of the late Chan as best he could, and embellishing it with many strange devices, such as one might imagine would be used by the inhabitants of the spirit world. And this is what he had written in the letter. "This letter is addressed to Chan Gunis Chang, to his beloved son, the Chan Chamuk Sakik Chi. When I departed this life, I was carried away to the kingdom of Tang Ari. This is a beautiful land, and in it there are many wonderful and interesting things. I am happy and contented, and lead a life of ease and leisure. But I am moved by the desire to erect a pagoda in which I can pray and meditate. Though I have searched through these realms, I have been unable to find a woodcarver to carry out this purpose. I pray you, therefore, to send Cunga, the woodcarver, to me, so that he may perform this work, by reason of which he will gain great honor and fame in the spirit world. I have given to Gunga, the painter, instructions as to how Cunga may come to me here." When he had finished reading the letter, the Chan Chamuk Sakik Chi was filled with joy and wonderment. "Indeed, it is marvelous news," he said, "to learn that my good father has been born to the kingdom of the Tang Ari, and that he lives there in ease and splendor. And glad indeed am I to be able to fulfill his wishes, so that he will be able to do what his heart desires." Thereupon he gave orders that Cunga the woodcarver was to be brought into his presence. The servants of the Chan went out to seek Cunga, and presently brought him to their master. "I have marvelous good news to tell thee, O Cunga, and great is the good luck that has befallen thee," said the Chan, as Cunga came bowing into his presence. "Today I have learned that my late father, Gunis Chang, is living in great happiness in the kingdom of Tang Ari. He has sent word to me that he is anxious to build a pagoda in which he can pray and meditate. But in all that realm there are no woodcarvers to be found. He asked me, therefore, to send thee hither to him without delay, in order that thou may immediately set about this work. This is indeed a splendid task that is given to thee." The Chan showed the letter to the woodcarver, but when he had read it, seeing that it was Gunga the painter who had brought the letter to the Chan, he was quite certain that the man was up to some trickery, for he was well aware of his hostile intentions at all times. He therefore demanded of Gunga what were his instructions as to the journey to the kingdom of Tang Ari. Whereupon Gunga replied, When thou hast gathered together all thy tools and other things necessary for thy work, thou shalt build up a great pile of faggots, and thou shalt mount upon them with songs of gladness and adoration. Then the pile of wood shall be set alight, and thou shalt journey forthwith to the kingdom of Tang-Ari. All this shall be done on the 7th day hence. Cunga heard all this in silence. Then he bowed low before the Chan. So be it, he said. The thing shall be done according to these instructions. And he left the palace. But his heart within him was full of anger, for he was certain that the whole affair was a cunning plot of Gunga's to get rid of him. When he reached home, he told the story to his wife, who was in great distress. There is no doubt that this is the evil work of Gunga, said her husband, but be not unduly distressed. I shall assuredly find some way to make his wicked plans come to naught. The next day he set busily to work and dug an underground passage leading from his house to the middle of a field which adjoined it, and over the opening he placed a stone, and the top of the stone he covered with earth, doing all this latter part by night, so that no one should see what he was about. When the 7th day had come, the Chan commanded that the great pile of wood should be heaped up in the field of the woodcarver, and Cunga himself helped with the work, even going so far as to choose the spot where he was to have the joy of setting out to the spirits in the kingdom of Tang-Ari. And on the evening of the 7th day the Chan said, The time has now come when Cunga, the woodcarver, shall start on his journey to meet my father, the Chan Chang. Then, according to his commands, all the people came to the place where the wood was piled up, and placed on it a handful of fat, so that the fire should burn up fiercely. The woodcarver mounted on to the top and began singing songs of gladness and adoration. But he contrived while doing so to make his way to the stone above the opening, and to creep into the subterranean passage, and so along to his own house. Gunga the painter was exceedingly joyful, and while the fire was raging fiercely, he pointed to the smoke and the sparks rising high into the air, saying, Behold how Cunga, the woodcarver, rises up to heaven. And all the people who had been present went to their homes, thinking, The woodcarver is dead, and is now gone to dwell with the Chan in the kingdom of Tang-Ari. Cunga remained quietly hidden in his own house for a whole month, letting no one see him. He washed his head in milk every day and kept out of the sun. At the end of the month he put on clothes made of white silk and wrote a letter. He imitated the writing of Gunga Chang, just as Gunga had done, and decorated it with scrolls of gold and strange embellishments. And this is what he wrote in the letter. This letter is addressed by the Chan Chang to his beloved son, the Chang Chamuk Sakikchi. It is of great comfort to learn that thou rulest thy kingdom justly and peaceably. Cunga, the woodcarver, has completed his work, and the work is well done and is pleasing to my eyes. Therefore do I command thee to reward the woodcarver handsomely for all that he has accomplished. It is now necessary that the pagoda should be made beautiful with many paintings. I therefore beg thee to send me the painter Gunga, as thou didst send the woodcarver. The woodcarver came into the presence of the Chan, taking the letter with him. The Chan looked at him with great wonder and amazement. Is it indeed Cunga, he said, returned from the land of Tang-Ari? How comes this? Thereupon the woodcarver handed the letter to the Chan, saying, It is true that I have been in the kingdom of Tang-Ari. True is it also that I have now returned again, and with a letter which thy father has asked me to deliver to thee. The Chan read the letter, and was overjoyed to find that the visit of Cunga to the realm of the Tang-Ari had been so successful, and he gave him many beautiful gifts according to the instructions in the letter. I see, he said, that the Chan, my father, now wishes me to send him a painter in order that the pagoda may be completed. And he sent out his servants to bring Gunga, the painter, into his presence. When Gunga came into the presence of the Chan, and beheld, to his great astonishment, Cunga the woodcarver, looking very fine, wearing shining garments of spotless white, and laden with beautiful gifts, his heart turned to water within him, for much he feared that Cunga had discovered his wicked plot and was now about to avenge himself. And he very soon found out that it was indeed so, for the Chan handed to him the letter which the woodcarver had given him. all beautifully embellished and adorned with a great seal hanging from it, and said to him, "It is now thy turn, O Gunga, to go to my father in the kingdom of the Tang Ari to complete the beautiful work which was begun by the woodcarver Cunga. At the end of 7 days thou shalt depart thither. Thou knowest already the method by which thou shalt go thither, for it was delivered by thy hand when my father sent for thy fellow craftsmen to carve the pagoda. Go now, therefore, and take with thee, when the time comes for thy departure, the materials necessary for thy work. Also, a letter which I will give thee for my father, and gifts which I will prepare in order to show him honor and devotion." Gunga the painter was unable to say aught, for, although he was an evil and a cunning man, and had himself thought out the plan for the destruction of Cunga, he was so astonished at this unexpected turn of events that he was unable to think of any way out of his predicament. Neither had he the wit to devise a plan of escape, as Cunga had been able to do so. And so it came about that on the 7th day a great pile of faggots was heaped up as before, and as before the people came according to the commands of the Chan and put handfuls of fat upon it, so that it might burn quickly. But this time no underground passage was there, no way by which Gunga could avoid his fate. He was obliged to seat himself in the midst of the pile of wood, with all his painting implements piled up about him, also a letter from the Chan Chamuk Sakikchi to his father, together with many fine presents. And there stood Gunga singing his songs of adoration and gladness. But as the fire grew hotter and hotter, the songs grew louder and louder, and as soon as there were songs no longer, but sounds of terror, until at last he was utterly destroyed. He was properly rewarded, is the remark with which the tale ends, as told by the Eastern chronicler, and I must say I think it did rather serve him right.
Thank you once again for listening to this story. If you enjoyed this story, please press that like button. Also, please help an old storyteller out by subscribing to my channel. The next story will be posted in a few days, so until then, may your story continue to be a good one.